Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to, before I share my screen and we all become small, little, even smaller boxes, I just want to welcome everybody and greetings from the East Coast of United States and Pennsylvania, and we're at Penn State University, and so just welcome and greetings to you all. It's great to be with you. My name is Erik Foley, and I'm fortunate enough to serve at the Smeal College of Business at Penn State as the director of our Center for the Business of Sustainability. And I've been part of the Sustainable Centers community for, I don't even know, but a number of years. It's been a huge support for what we've tried to do here. I remember learning about NBS when I started here almost 8 years ago, and going to my first time in France was going to SC's Sustainable Centers community workshop at INSEAD. It was fantastic. So just love the work that NBS does and the sustainable communities, sustainable centers. So it's a great group. So yeah, good to be with you all. I'll share my screen in a moment, but I want to just introduce the other colleagues of mine that are here today that you'll be hearing from. And I'm very appreciative that they're investing some of their valuable time and with us. Because I think part of why I wanted this to not just be about me is it's not about me, but more so this, we're all focused on how do we drive change in business schools. And obviously that's a team sport, and it requires, and especially the engagement of faculty and the engagement of business school leadership. So we're joined by both. We're fortunate enough this morning. So my colleague, Ron Johnson, you can wave to the people, Ron. So Ron is an associate teaching professor of management, been long working on sustainability at Smeal, actually long before I came to the Smeal College of Business. And you'll hear a bit from Ron here shortly on a little bit of the history of how what I'm going to present fits into a larger context of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of integrating sustainability into the curriculum. And Ron is the director of our education programs in the center. So thanks for being here, Ron. And then we have two deans. So I'm just really, really appreciative that Felisa and Brian, who are incredibly busy individuals, have invested their time with us this morning. They're really key partners for us. So Felisa Higgins, wave Felisa, is Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education. We have around 5,000, 6,000 undergraduate students, 10 majors, and lots going on, to say the least, in her area. And so thanks, Felisa, for being here. And she's obviously going to speak to, with everything happening within undergraduate business education within our institution, how does sustainability fit into that? And then finally, we have Brian Cameron. So say hi to the people, Brian. So Brian is an associate dean in the Office of Professional Graduate Programs. So Felisa, undergraduate. So Brian is responsible for and done tremendous work to grow our graduate programs, both residential programs and online. And similarly, how does sustainability become effectively and strategically integrated into graduate programs? So that's where we're heading today. Sound good? So that's the team that we've got here. All right. So I'm going to kick off, and I'm sort of going to be the one driving the slides and sharing my screen here. So here are the fine folks that I just introduced. Okay, so this is sort of, I think about as the context that we are working in here. Again, this is very much United States focused. So I'll give you a minute to kind of take in what this is here. So this is data from the National Center for Educational Statistics on bachelor's degrees awarded every year in the United States between 2009 and 10 and 2018-19. And so you can see that the number of bachelor's degrees in business is around 400,000 a year, 400,000 students a year. And what stands out to me about this chart is that 400,000 is so far above. Look, if you add together psychology, biology, and engineering, you just start to reach business. So why does that matter? So one of the reasons I think that matters is that business education clearly has an outsized impact on, you might say, the American mind, as opposed to other disciplines. So it seems to me that business, for a lot of other reasons, but from an education perspective, is a large place where we can have a significant impact on the way people see the world, on the way they act in it as business people. So what we did, what we're presenting today is work that started 5 years ago involving 30 faculty to answer a very simple but kind of vexing question, which is, what should we be teaching in business schools about sustainability? This is a question that I'm sure you were all wrestling with. What should we be teaching in business schools about sustainability? And so we sort of studied the problem. We did a literature review, and we found essentially that business schools play a vital role, but they're really not keeping up. But there's a few, and this is still, a lot of this research, as you can see on the bottom here, 2013, 14, 16. But most of this is still true, right? So that's basically the way I would summarize this is it's mostly a sideshow, not part of the main event. It's not only a sideshow, but it's kind of unfocused, right? So based on our literature review, most business education is very unfocused. It's based on the passions of a small number of faculty and a small number of students that sort of self-select to be in those courses. Meanwhile, most traditional disciplines are not unfocused. They're very focused on a set of learning outcomes and concepts. So if you take an accounting class anywhere in the world, you're going to learn certain accounting concepts, the same with supply chain. So we feel as though sustainability is at the point now where it can kind of grow up, frankly, and meet the same rigorous standards as any other discipline in business. So we think we've got to move from sort of business education 1.0 to business education 2.0. That is sustainability education for business that is designed with standard learning objectives so that it can be effectively integrated across all disciplines. So that's what we set about doing, because we felt very strongly that we needed a framework to guide curriculum development and learning outcomes, because employers need action and results, not just empty promises or students that are just quote unquote passionate about sustainability. We don't need students that are just passionate about sustainability. We need students who are skilled in sustainability and with skills that are relevant in different business functions. That's kind of the philosophy, if you will, behind this work. Mm-hmm. So this is part of a much larger effort, of which we're only going to get into kind of the first bullet point here. So this is a larger effort that we refer to as Best Business Education for Sustainability Transformation, which has all these different elements to it, not just the learning outcomes piece, which is what we're focused on today, but learning assessment and tool development and curriculum redevelopment and so forth. And you'll hear a little bit from my other colleagues on some of these other points today, but mostly today we're focused on the first bullet point here. So what did we do? So why did this take 5 years? Couldn't we have done this quicker? Well, it took 5 years because, as the leader, I wouldn't let our teaching faculty focus on anything else. Teaching faculty are the busiest people on campus, except maybe our deans. And so it took, we would literally do 1 or 2 disciplines a year. So we had faculty themselves work on to define what are the relevant sustainability learning outcomes in your discipline. So we didn't impose these on them. That's a dangerous activity to attempt in academia. But we just said, what do you think are the sustainability learning outcomes, whether they are currently taught or not? Right? Whether they're currently taught or not, these are aspirational in nature. What do you think the learning objectives should be in your discipline? And also challenge them to come up with one sentence. Can you put this in one sentence And so that's what we accomplished. And we'll share this with you. I won't go through all of these in detail, but essentially we developed these sustainability learning objectives by major. And so I know I'm going quickly because we got to go quickly, but you'll get this later. But I just want you to get a sense for the format, right? So the format here is that for each discipline or each business function, we have a sentence that summarizes it because people don't have a lot of time, and we want to say, well, give it to me in one sentence. What is the unique contribution of finance to sustainability? And then what are the key learning outcomes in that area? So this is what took us some time to develop. And then we decided we wanted to make this available to the world. And so we made a website, and this is what we wanted to share with you and invite your participation in developing some use cases around. So we call this Major Sustainability. This is probably the version 5.0 or something. It's gone through many, many versions, but we have made it, we wanted it to be attractive and easy to use so that this information could be accessible all around the world. Because a lot of these business disciplines are not unique, obviously, to our business school, but they are also found surely at yours as well. So the way that this is set up is you can navigate over here and you can select a major, and you can dive into that major and its contribution to sustainability, or you can also click on the buttons here. So I'll just give you an example here to give you a sense. If we dive into finance, for example, here's kind of the way we have this set up. So here's where you see the sentence, right? So there's, let me just zoom in just a hair here. So these are all set up the same way, right? So this, for maybe the audience here, this is like really basic information, and that's kind of on purpose. We wanted this to be introductory in nature for faculty that think, but I'm not sure what to teach in my discipline, and for students who think, but I'm not sure what I should be learning in my particular major or discipline. This is what provides the answer to those questions, right? So what is the relationship between sustainability and finance, and then connected to short pieces of information linked out to reputable sources. They get the basics, and then they think, okay, I get that. So what are the major concepts? I understand sort of the contribution of finance, in this case, to sustainability. What are kind of the major concepts that I should be teaching or that I should be learning about as a student if I want to work in this space? And these are here, and then we can go one more layer deep, and you can learn about, again, the basics in this area. ESG criteria and investments and those kinds of things. And I'm going to show you one other example here. Yeah, so hopefully you find this, it's nice looking, it's easy to use, right? So just to show you one other example, sustainability linked debt financing. Again, so the whole point, I think, as you see here, is we provide lots of sort of case examples and short definitions for things that you can tie back to the sources for that information. So our goal here was really to create what the other way you can think about this is sort of almost a free digital textbook on sustainability in higher education and business schools that we wanted to make freely available so that faculty would know what exactly could be taught in their area, and that students would know what is it that they should be learning in their particular area. So that is what I wanted to talk about. And so I'm going to now switch to my colleague, so you have a sense of how this fits into a larger structure of what we're trying to achieve at Smeal College of Business, Ron Johnson. And Ron, as I said, is the director of educational programs for the center, and he's going to paint a bit of a picture to put the major sustainability project into a larger context. So over to you, Ron.
All right, thank you, Eric. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you came and joined us today, and want to get started on talking about some stuff. Eric, if you can just go back to that first slide for a second.
Yeah.
So this is actually a quote that I made about 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I said to everybody, in fact, I was in a video for Penn State and with some of our senior leaders at the university. And so I made this quote. I said, we want sustainability embedded in the DNA of every SMEAL student. And a lot of people actually resonated with that at the time, and they're going, wow, we want this to be so fundamental to them that if I'm a finance major, a marketing, accounting major, it doesn't matter. I'm immediately thinking that sustainability is a part of my situation whenever I'm going out into business. And so we got a lot of play off of that. I would say that in 10 years ago, that was aspirational. It would have been actually fall of 11 when we said that. But now it's actually getting closer to being a reality where students are knowing a lot more about where sustainability is at. So let's go ahead and jump forward. I want to give you just a snapshot of kind of when we think about major sustainability, there's a touch of the background you got to know about kind of where we get to with this thing called major sustainability. Just a little bit of the what, and I'm going to give you an example here of kind of how we're actually using it, and then a little of where we're going, which is very much a curriculum sort of thing. But it is a journey, and so I think many of us on this Zoom call are probably saying, businesses almost always you'll hear them say, "Where are you on your sustainability journey?" It's not necessarily a destination we'll ever really arrive at. I think it is an ongoing journey, and we're definitely on a journey that I think has been moving pretty rapidly. And so let's go ahead and jump forward. First piece I want you to think about is just a little of the history. And I'm just going to give you a couple of snapshots just to put this in context. So when we started off in the Smil College of Business, it was 2009. We had a guy named Jerry Sussman, who's known as our sort of the founder of sustainability at the College of Business. And he comes along and says, hey, this is a big deal. We should start working on it. A whole bunch of us who were working in sustainability, I've probably been working in sustainability since probably the late 90s. We got together, we formed an internal body, right? This is the Sustainability Council, and started working on strategic planning. What should our college be looking like? We built an advisory board with a bunch of large companies, global directors of sustainability. We still have those boards, and they started working on it. We named a director. Jerry was an emeritus professor and jumped in to do that. By 2012, we had our first strategic plan for the college, which was the same time that the university, our Penn State University, wrote a strategic plan. So we came out together and said, yep, this is actually a thing we should all be working on. Had a faculty director in 2014, part-time, and a major initiative was actually one of the major parts of our strategic plan was we wanted a full-time executive director of sustainability. Mr. Foley is joining us today, obviously, in that role. So that was a success. So that's kind of the big overall picture. And I want to drop in on the major sustainability picture for a second. So I was brought on prior to 2011. I was a joint appointment in engineering and the College of Business, and I was teaching leadership classes, and it had lots of leadership competencies. So if you think about sustainability, ethics, diversity, DEI, stakeholders, those are all leadership competencies that we believe every student should know something about. So fall 11, I switched to being exclusively associate teaching professor for the business school. And we said, build us a new class. They said, we want a class that's called BA 342. And the class is going to be all about sustainability, ethics, diversity. We're going to say the big three, right? Big three leadership competencies. And we're going to make that a mandatory course that every single one of our 5,000 to 6,000 students will be taking. Every year we've got lots and lots of students in those classes. And my classes tend to be very large. We have several of us teaching that now. And so we created this thing and said, we don't want anybody to get out without having to have touched these subjects in an important way. And then, by the way, the stakeholder model, the corporation, is a part of that. And it's sort of the fourth competency, if you will. It kind of is an umbrella over all of those. Many people talk about the shareholder model versus stakeholder model. And one of the arguments that we make is that the top companies for a very long time have been stakeholder companies. If you look at the best companies back in the 20th century, ones that were really succeeding well, they were very much stakeholder companies. Even if you go to, we're probably all familiar with Milton Friedman, the economist, and Milton Friedman had his great line that said, hey, he's doing this back in the 90s. He says, the purpose of the corporation is shareholders. That's it. And he was in a discussion about philanthropy, and he was not a fan. And so they were having this discussion, and then they started to ask him questions, and they said, so it's all about shareholder value. Well, what about your employees? Of course, you'll do great. They said, well, Milton, what about your customers? We're going to make sure we treat them really, really well. How about the communities you operate in? Got to be great at it. How about the environment? Well, you've got to take care of the natural. I mean, he's actually saying we're a shareholder company, and then said the greatest shareholder companies are stakeholder companies. If you look at the Business Roundtable 2 years ago, they were always about the shareholder value. That was the purpose of the corporation. Now it is stakeholder model. The corporation is the purpose of the corporation. So again, we've always said great companies have been stakeholder companies. All right, so let's go ahead and jump forward there, Eric. This is just this is a course pack that the students get from me, just to give you a sense of this BA 342 class. And you can see the major competencies there. Now, how we get to major sustainability, in 2012, we get a new dean. He's still our current dean of the College of Business. Chuck Whiteman comes in, and a bunch of us, Jerry Sussman led that for us, goes to him and says, so what do you think about sustainability? Brand new dean, right? 2012. He says, man, he says, I am all about it. I need to grow and develop, but it's got to be a part of our college. So the reason I wanted to put this in here, leadership matters. And when we have senior deans and our whole dean community comes out and says, you know, this is a thing. As a business school, we need to drive this. It helps immensely in a business school. And then, of course, in 2016, we got a full-time director of sustainability. That shows a commitment to sustainability. And of course, in 2020, established a center for the business of sustainability. So hugely important. So when I'm thinking about these classes now and teaching students, right, so it's all about teaching, we have kind of these goals. And we said, well, there should be foundations. What are all the basics that every single student should know? BA 342 takes that on. We teach a lot of that so that every student has a grounding in all the foundations. But then second, we said, we need to do this by major. And actually, all the way back in fall 11, we were talking about, I wonder if a finance major, a marketing major, an accounting major has specific dynamics that they should know about. So everybody needs foundations, but then the majors need to be really clear that it's going to be important for them. And so we started off kind of play with that. I was, for a period of time, was the only person teaching. Now we have multiple people teaching this class, but when I'm the only person teaching, I said, okay, we need to do something about majors. So I'm going into class, I'm teaching finance and sustainability. I'm teaching accounting and sustainability. And I was creating videos. And here I am on a video saying, here we go, let's learn about finance. Now I'm a management and organization professor. And do I know about all the majors? Yes, but it's way better if I have a finance professor defining it. It's way better for our community if I have an accounting professor defining accounting. And so we really wanted to go that direction. And this is where bringing Erik on. Erik was really influential to start off by saying, you know what, I get it. Let's start working on the objectives, the goals. Let's engage all of our community, get champions in every department, and let's put the majors kind of stuff together, which was a huge part for us. Something I was saying, I need to not be the definition. I want people in the departments to be defining and being committed and engaged. We also said student engagement is a really big deal. We'll mention something about that in a minute. So let's jump forward. All right, so we're going to jump to sort of the what, kind of a little bit more of now. Couple things to know right now. Penn State has a brand new strategic plan and a brand new presidential campaign to raise some billions of dollars. And we are running a thing. One of them, there's, I think, 4 or 5 planks in that plan that they said are the major themes. And ensuring a sustainable future is a very big deal for our university. I think in the teaching range. We have 600 classes in the university that talk about sustainability in some way. The strategic plan for SMEAL, our brand new strategic plan, is really cool. Man, it says be great at education, be great at research, right? The two big planks. But we added a plank that says lifelong learning, and Brian Cameron will talk more about what that means. And that's a really big deal for us, getting involved with lots of our alumni in different ways. But then also the integrity, the culture of integrity, diversity, and sustainability. Major planks that we are investing in. We have centers of excellence in all three of those, and we interact and work together to develop materials in that space. We said we were going to do this thing called Learn, Live, and Lead. Whenever we did the original strategic plan, a lot of discussion was held about what does that mean for 5,000 students, and the term good stewardship of all types of resources, human resources, environmental resources. That's just what makes a great business. And we got to teach about this. We got to take action on it, and we want to share it with others. So this is when we got to work on sustainability in SMEAL. It was I noticed you say it's centered around students here. We want to make sure we're impacting students in a big way, and that is education and curriculum we want to work on. But I think that to put major sustainability in context, if that's all we were doing, it would not really work that well. You got to engage in lots of other departments, classes. We have a very robust research program going on with every single major professors doing research in the area. We have the center, which is coordinating a lot of great information. We're adding additional courses. We have a two-piece in curriculum right now on sustainability the students can take. We are looking at other offerings, both as well for our graduate programs and undergraduate programs. So multiple other things happening. We've recently stood up a career function in our career office for impact careers. We're getting students like crazy. I want to work in this. I want this to be my life. And we realized that we were great at Fortune 500 kinds of jobs in traditional, like a finance job in an investment bank. Great, that's all very traditional. Turns out there's a ton of other stuff out there that students can be engaged in. We're starting to work on that. We have a robust engagement with corporations. We have some of the most popular case competitions, graduate and undergraduate going on right now. We have an alumni function that's taken off on sustainability. Our teaching in sustainability, we've had 20,000 people take BA 342, 1,300 involved in case competitions. We've just got, we've realized you got to attack a lot of different pieces at the same time to make this work. Okay, so Eric, go ahead. So major sustainability, and this is a little bit of kind of the why, right? We wanted to make sure that everybody knows what it is, what's all the foundational stuff, but then they got to get their majors in hand. So this is just an example. I wanted to give you just a quick snapshot. This is a project students in my class. I have a group of 660 students that are in my foundations class right now. And we're in the middle of sustainability. That's where we're at right this moment. And so they're working on a project, and it has 3 parts. They're going to do an assessment of a company. So we're looking at reporting of companies. We have vetted probably 400 to 500 companies who do great reporting. And of course, about 80% of major companies are reporting on sustainability today. There's some that are not great. We'll leave those couple industries I can think of, we'll leave out of the discussion for the moment. But they're all assessing a company's sustainability report. They're reporting out. They're also going to learn about SDGs. We talk about those, and they're doing a project. The second part is to go assess the SDGs and report out on those. And then third is we're saying, we want you to go to the major sustainability sites. So this is one of the applications. So I have 660 people are evaluating their major. What are they taking away from the site that's specific to them? And then I've asked them to evaluate a second major that they have an interest in.
Hmm.
So they're doing 2 majors and getting a chance to explore that site and then doing a report out. And it's actually, we've done this now a couple of times. It works really, really well. And so you kind of get a sense of what they're doing. And this is just going to be a 2-page report on the majors, 2 majors. They don't have to go anywhere else, but they just go and they engage in the site. And it has turned out to be a great tool because they know that it's been defined by the faculty in their major. So it's not, I'm thrilled, as you might guess. It's not just me saying, hi, I'm the expert for all the majors. We're not going to win as a college if that's the only way we can play. We got to get lots of people engaged. Now, last final thing, just a real quick snapshot, kind of next steps. We are into the middle of a project that launched in July 2022, and it is looking at sort of ESG and SDGs and trying to map the curriculum. This is something we've done a bunch of benchmarking on, and there's a handful of people that have done some curriculum mapping in business schools, but it is, it's kind of all over the map. I think one of the ones I can think of offhand was someone looked at every course in a college of business and just looked at their bulletins, what was written in the bulletin. And as you might, we've all know, those bulletins have such limited information. And so you can't really fully map it. So we're working on a mapping project. We're going to ultimately map all of our courses to the Global Reporting Initiative. They've got 41 major sort of categories. And we're kind of landing that what we're going to do is we're going to start a pilot program with our champions, and we're going to start mapping all the professors and all the classes. Those of you right now are thinking about that. That is a big undertaking, but we want to know what's happening curriculum-wise.
Sorry,
That's
oh, is that your last slide, Ron? Sorry about that.
That's it.
Great. So hopefully hearing from Ron gives you a sense of, so I think some of the high points I would just remind you is the major sustainability initiative, which we have right now, which defines the learning objectives by major, is part of a sort of the historical sweep that started back in 2008, 2009. And it's also within a larger context of work that we do to advance sustainability and research, and in working with companies and in other spaces. And we're really proud of the fact that, and I think we're unique, and I look forward to the discussion to hear about what's going on in your schools. But the fact that we have, and this is really thanks to the leadership of our deans like Felisa and Chuck, the fact that we have sustainability as a requirement, for every student with BA 342, and the fact that we can say that 20,000 students have now gone through that is quite significant. So thanks, Ron, for your leadership. So. Now is we're going to spotlight perspectives of our deans on this before we get to the discussion with you all. And so we're going to first hear from what does all this sort of mean and look like from the perspective of, imagine if you were, and maybe you are, an associate dean for undergraduate education. We have, as I mentioned before, about 6,000 undergraduate students. And so we're joined by Associate Dean Felisa Higgins here. And so Felisa, welcome you to the stage here. Share your perspective on this work and how it relates to what we're trying to do to engage students here at SMEAL.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and sharing this opportunity to hopefully get to know some of you and start some conversations around this topic. From my perspective, and so just to give you some context, we have over 5,800 undergrads currently in the SMEAL College, and but it's not really a matter of scale. You could be a school with 800 students, 20 students, or 10,000 students, right? I believe that we're all gathered here because, first of all, we do want our students to be prepared to tackle some of the problems that are currently we're facing currently, and we will face in the future. And that takes work, no matter if we're talking about 20 or 10,000. Obviously, we have to think about scalability. So when Ron is talking about his approach to his course, he delved into how he can do this and do it at scale. But more importantly, if we take a step back, in my role, I have to, look at the picture of the student all the way from prospective student, the student that is still in high school, in secondary education, trying to make decisions about what their learning journey is going to look like, what their interests are going to be, and all the way to, completion and graduation. And we have friends from all over the world in this conversation, so I know that looks differently in different countries. But, here in the US, one of the added complexities is that this comes with an extremely high cost and is very inaccessible financially to many. So when students approach their business education, even if they have had some awareness about the importance of sustainability, many of them may not even have an idea on whether or not, a business path could help them also make an impact, because perhaps in their high school experience, those two things are not connected. So there is a lack of awareness, both on the sides of the students, and I'm going to talk about lack of awareness on the side of the faculty sometimes as well. But, as students particularly look at business as their field of study, the connections between how that relates to environmental, societal, impact from a sustainability standpoint may not be obvious. So it's on us to kind of help them put the pieces together as to, first of all, the relevance and the urgency of what sustainability really is. And for a lot of people, they think sustainability, they might think about composting and recycling, which are all great things to do, but that's all they think about. This is about tree hugging, which, hug a tree, because trees are great for our lungs. We get fresh air, right? But that's what they think, it is. So students that are very serious about sustainability might think that maybe my path is to go into a science major, and that's great, but they don't see business as the place where they can actually make a difference. But when you look at how many students are seeking studies in business at the post-secondary level, Erik shared some figures from the United States. You see that, a lot of the products of higher education are coming out into the world with business disciplinary knowledge. And the question is, many of these individuals are going to be leaders of organizations or public institutions, or, in the health sector or in education, in different ways. So creating, first of all, the sense of awareness of where the conversations in sustainability fit, and then learn how to guide the students through it is one of the challenges. And as Ron mentioned, his goal of embedding that in the DNA of every student, right now, the way we fit it, we use coursework, we think about, and now we're mapping the curriculum, but it's not necessarily obvious when you begin this journey where exactly that belongs, because you could have it as a standalone program, as a concentration or a minor, but understanding that there is really stakeholder impacts in marketing decisions and accounting decisions and finance decisions. So there is not this siloing and detachment between what we're teaching in finance and on knowing that when you make decisions about investments or, wealth management or real estate, asset management, there are sustainability related impacts, and it's important that we find ways to help our faculty and our students, navigate through those things. So I was asked to talk a little bit about the challenges we face. Number one, as I mentioned, not fully understanding where it fits. And that, again, goes both from addressing the needs to give undergraduates. Brian is going to talk about graduate students. Undergraduates really are starting from, the first floor of the building, right? So we're just trying to get them foundational knowledge. So it's not necessarily obvious how we get them started in a business discipline and getting basic to intermediate to advanced level expertise while injecting, I shouldn't say injecting, incorporating the concept. So not knowing where it fits is one issue that we face. The other one is also, for some of our institutions, we do not have the speed of curricular innovation that mimics what is happening in the world. And, for us as a very large institution, we have very slow processes to modify curriculum, but there are ways to get around that, especially if you create opportunities by first helping your faculty develop modules. So some faculty may not necessarily, revamp their entire course because they may not have either the workload release to be able to do that, or, some people are trying to get tenure, and this might not be where their time is spent. But, through collaborations of the kind that Ron was describing, beginning by modularly incorporating sustainability topics into courses, and the major sustainability website kind of gives a little flavor of the different ways in which perhaps module by module, you can incentivize and work with your faculty to incorporate it into the curriculum. And last, there are other things I want to talk about, but the one thing I'm going to touch on quickly before, passing it off to Brian, is that, the undergraduate experience, we have learned that the learning that happens outside the classroom is as important, sometimes maybe even more important than what happens in the walls of the classroom. Okay, we're not going to get into that debate. They're both equally important. But so when we think about sustainability and learning outcomes, it can't be just what they learn in the classroom. They have to put it into action. So at SMEAL, one of the initiatives that we have started is the SMEAL Ethical Leadership Challenge, where we actually help students articulate and understand how their engagement opportunities, whether it's case competitions, internships, or special guest speaker engagements or workshops, how that translates into developing leadership for themselves, for others, for their communities, and how that connects to values. And so we have a matrix of values and competencies that the students learn to connect what they're learning and what they're putting into practice, and the engagement opportunities. And I will put the link to the SMEAL Ethical Leadership Challenge in the chat. But I'm gonna stop there because I'm more interested in hearing your questions. But I know that my friend Brian, my colleague Brian, also wants to talk a little bit more about graduate education aspects.
Thanks, Felisa. Perfect. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks for your leadership. Appreciate you sharing with all of us, in the whole, community of business schools that are here, just the challenges and all the opportunities from a perspective of undergraduate dean. So the other we wanted to leave you with here is how do we approach this, and perhaps some things that you might learn from us and we want to learn from you. How are we approaching this from a graduate program perspective? So Brian, let me send it over to you to round us out here, sir.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Pleasure to be here today. Thanks for inviting me. So I'm Brian Cameron. I'm the Associate Dean for Professional Graduate Programs and Executive Education in the SMEAL College of Business. And I'm going to talk quickly because I want to allow time for a lot of discussion, and I know we're coming up on the hour. So Eric asked me to give you an overview of our professional graduate portfolio, some of the things that we're doing and planning, some of the trends that we see, and in particular, some of the new initiatives we're planning around integration of sustainability and DEI related topics throughout our portfolio. So why don't we get started? Could you, Eric, are you on slide view? I'm seeing like.
Well, when I made it slide view before, it sort of blacked.
Oh, okay, it's fine. That's fine.
Blacked out, so I'm nervous to go to slide view.
No, don't worry about it. Okay, this is. I just wanted to make sure I was seeing the right thing.
It was causing me problems. Yeah.
Okay, no, we're good. So this is our current professional graduate portfolio. So we have 9 residential programs that span, many of them are 5th-year programs for students right after they complete their undergraduate degree or early career, typically less than 3 years. A couple things here that are new or that we're changing, and I'll just go through this quickly. We're launching a new Executive Doctorate of Business Administration this fall that is being very well received. We actually just shut down the application because we're full, and we're actually enrolling people for the following year already. Average work experience over 22 years, representation from I think 5 different countries now. So it's really incredible the response that we've received in the first year of that program. We are in the process of retooling our executive MBA as well to change it from a traditional residential format to a hybrid format, using new to us anyhow, high quality remote synchronous technologies using a system called WeConnect. Some of you that are at Ivy League institutions, you have these systems in place. We'll be the first that I know of in the Big Ten to have teaching studios using these technologies to deliver in a hybrid fashion in a very high quality remote synchronous manner. We're also relaunching our residential MBA into a 1-year early career format. which has been extremely well received by the marketplace. We have over 400 people that have applied to that program so far. And we're going to exceed our recruiting projections for the first year of that program. So then moving on, we have also a portfolio of online offerings. We have 9 online master's programs, some of them in collaborations with other colleges. And we also have 15 online graduate certificates, which provide the linkage between all of these different programs. So these are elective areas in most of our residential and online master's programs, and they provide the bridge, if you will, for degree stacking, which is becoming very popular. About 20–25% of our students are stacking degrees, so they're earning multiple degrees. It provides a quicker, cheaper path to earning multiple credentials. We have about 2,300 students in our portfolio and growing. And I'm going to talk about some trends here in a second and how we're thinking about sustainable. Oh, before we go on to the next slide. So 2 graduate certificates that are that are of particular interest to this group. We have one that we've been doing for a few years in sustainability strategy, which Erik leads, and a new one which we're just launching in diversity and inclusion as strategy. Now, what we've seen with sustainability in our portfolio, and this is why we're thinking about it a little differently and holistically. One of the trends that I'm going to point out in a few moments in professional graduation is towards shorter programs. This, regardless of the audience, people want things more flexible and shorter and cheaper as well. So we have a very finite set of credits. Most of our programs are 30 credits. So when we look at concentration areas, the students, have the ability to typically take one concentration. Maybe if they do things just right, they can pick up a second. But often what they're choosing as concentration areas are the more skills-based concentrations, or the things that are going to get them more of the immediate promotion. So some of our more popular ones, as you might expect, are business analytics, leadership and strategy, corporate innovation is another popular one, negotiation and influence is popular. Sustainability does well, but it's not one of the more popular ones by far. And when we talk to students, they say, I'm very interested in the topic, but I've got a finite number of credits and a finite time I'm at Penn State. And these other concentrations are going to help get me that next step faster. So then we step back, we talked with Erik. And while the concentrations are still a valuable part of the portfolio, let's think a little more systemically about how we handle topics like DEI and sustainability. And I'm going to talk about what we came up with in a new initiative to have these be more thematic across all of our programs and courses, rather than just a few courses and concentrations that some students may elect to take. So we're going to keep the concentrations, obviously, but we're going to think also more systemically on how we infuse topics like sustainability throughout our courses and curriculums. And I'll come back to that thought in just a moment.
Brian, would you mind, in the interest of time, maybe we should just jump to that?
Well, could you go to the next slide real quick? Because lifelong learning came up.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, so this is our portfolio and how it fits with, essentially every stage of the career. And you can layer in graduate certificates anywhere along the way to get a drill down. We're also, so about a year ago, I took over our non-credit executive education unit. We're in the process of retooling that portfolio and organization and having tighter integration long-term between the credit and non-credit portfolio. So you're going to see non-credit offerings get added to this as well. And not just traditional exec ed courses, which might be 3 or 4 days, but shorter, what we're calling sprints. Some of them we're doing with corporate partners like CorpU and Udemy. So we're exploring a number of corporate partnerships where it makes sense, where these organizations can market and do things more economically at a better economic price point than we can, while using our content and our faculty expertise, and it can be a great win-win. All right, so let's move ahead then, Erik. I won't.
Where do I need to go?
Go to the grad education trends real quick.
Sure.
So I talked about some of this already, and this is going on, across the country, across the world. People want things faster, cheaper, more focused, and more and more people are getting their master's degrees younger and younger. So we're seeing more people get multiple master's degrees, and that's really spurred us to launch our executive doctorate in business administration. That's really a post-master's, post-MBA degree. So everybody in that program has a master's or an MBA. Many of them got that degree 15, 20 years ago, and they need a degree to progress in their organizations. So it's, like I said, it's being very well received. Okay, next slide. We'll go through the next few real quick, and then we'll get to our DEI and sustainability initiative.
Want to go to this one? Or?
Yeah, that one, please. So we're on a number of boards, myself and staff. We're on about every board related to professional graduate education, and all of our peers across the world are talking about how we integrate sustainability, diversity, and other topics into our curriculums. So that's just us kind of in isolation thinking about things, where we talk about these things with our peers from all over the globe on a regular basis. All right, go to number 9. We can just skip 8. Okay, so this is our initiative that we kicked off a few months ago. And you'll see some similarities. So in many parts of it are modeled after the success of the major sustainability initiative. And our core folks and DEI, ethics, and sustainability are all involved in this initiative. So the first thing we're doing is mapping our professional graduate curriculums in our different programs. We're starting with our supply chain curriculum. And to understand where DEI, ESG, sustainability related topics are currently being taught, and where are the gaps? What aren't we teaching that we might want to consider teaching? Then after that, this all kind of goes somewhat sequentially. We're going to do faculty development workshops by department, starting with supply chain. Our supply chain folks stepped up and volunteered to be the first department to go through this process. Since we can't mandate what people do in their curriculums and courses, we can strongly encourage and provide resources to foster curricular change and integration. So we're going to start with workshops to help educate people on not only the broader topics, but how these topics might be integrated in their particular disciplines. And we're going to bring in folks from industry and perhaps other universities to help with those discussions. So it's not just us saying this. We want folks from supply chain and that work in ESG, DEI, and supply chain related disciplines to come in and tell us how this works in their organizations and their companies, and provide kind of a mentoring service as well. So that'll be part of a webinar series that we will roll out to PGP faculty, and then some specific webinars for people within different disciplines. And then I mentioned also, for those faculty that are interested, we'll have industry mentors that will match them up with. So if they want to bounce ideas off of somebody, thinking about doing X in my course, could you give me some guidance on how that is handled in your organization, and just get some other perspectives as we modify and evolve our courses and curriculums. And then we'd like to provide some help for people. So one of the constant concerns that we hear is, this is all great, but I don't have time. I have a busy research agenda. So we have in our professional graduate portfolio what we call teaching support specialists. These are people that have graduated from our programs that typically work 5 to 10 hours a week to provide various levels of course support, and they can do much more than just grade. They actually, in some cases, play active roles alongside of the faculty member. So we could provide TSS support, people that work in related sustainability and DEI related areas within the appropriate disciplines like supply chain, to come in and help do some of the heavy lifting and curate materials and help get materials together for interested faculty. And then perhaps even provide some limited travel funds for people that would like to attend sustainability or DEI related conferences, but don't want to use their research travel funds to do it. This is all the president of our Board of Visitors, Karen Quintos, is very excited about this. And she's actually providing some funding to the college to help support things like this. So we'll have some limited funding behind it as well. All right, so Eric, that was a quick drive-by. We've got 2 minutes to spare, so I'm going to stop.
No, you're good. And actually, we have we're actually scheduled till 10:15, so we've got.
Oh, we are. Okay, great.
For some discussion. So yeah, just thanks to my colleagues. I'll just sort of wrap this up by saying that I think any of our institutions could do a presentation, and in the presentation, much like ours, it might seem like we've got this all figured out. We do not. We are just getting started. Even though we've been at it for 14 or 15 years. So we look forward to learning from you all. We hope with our unique contribution here with this work over 5 years with 30 faculty across every department, we think that kind of our contribution is that every major has a role in sustainability. And that ultimately to reach sustainability, we've got to leverage the strengths, the unique capabilities, concepts, methodologies of each of these key business disciplines and majors. And hopefully we've done something that contributes to that. So I see there's a ton of stuff. I haven't clicked on the chat yet, but there's a lot of stuff in there. So I don't know if Abby, you want to kind of drive the Q&A, or I see Maya there. Hey, Maya, how are you? But we're open to questions and discussion and to learn from you all. So.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, anyone who would like to share a response or a question, just feel free to go ahead and unmute and jump in, I think.
Perfect. Yeah.
Here we go.
Who has a question for us? Yeah, go ahead. It's a small group, informal group, so you can just unmute and ask your question, make your comment, or share a story from your own institution. We'd love to hear it.
If I may, I can go. It's just like more like words of appreciation. It seems like I'm Katayun from Morgan State University, and I would just love to, like, I'm very thankful that you sent me the link to just be here and listen to you. At Morgan State University Business School, we do not have any sustainability related courses or program, nothing at the business level. So I am really jumping in, and I would like to develop curriculum and programs. So I'm really appreciative of being here today and listening to you guys. And this is an amazing job, but the only thing that I wanted to mention here that I would definitely love to be in touch with you more, as I am planning to develop the first, syllabus actually for a course on business and sustainability. And I appreciate very much to receive from you guys some further resources, where to start, and to be in touch. That's all on my behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katayun. Good to see you.
Katayun, would you mind sharing which particular area within business do you teach? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. I'm a law major. I'm a legal background. So
Okay.
Yeah, but since there is no other, like, I'm just thinking in all directions, whether or not I should get in touch with other professors at my department, or should I just start off myself, like initiating something?
Oh, that's excellent. No, the reason I asked was I was thinking in terms of helping build connections. I wasn't sure if you were thinking about, as a standalone curriculum for maybe an initial course on business and sustainability as a general course, or you were looking more into embedding it into a course that you had already developed for in a particular discipline. But happy to be in touch. I'm sure Ron and Brian and Eric would also be happy to be in touch.
Sure, thank you.
Are there questions, hopes, dreams, fears, anything that, listening to this experience and the wonderful perspectives on it sparks for people?
Yeah, I think we're especially curious about, I think with these presentations in general, I think in this particular series, I mean, sometimes we hear when we get together, all of us, we hear about sort of specialized projects that are a particular faculty or group of faculty have done something really outstanding. And this is, and we're trying to do some of that too, but what we're trying to sort of shift the conversation with today is it's not about specialization, but it's about integration. How do we're never going to get within the United States to 400,000 students if we rely on a small set of courses that are kind of on the side. And so we're just curious what you all think about integration within your country, within your context, within your institution. That specialization versus integration, and the extent to which, the work that we're doing helps with that, or you think that's important, or that integration piece.
Yeah, Paula, please.
Hi, and thank you so much for the presentations and this nice conversation we're having. So I'm Paula Schöna from Aalto University in Finland, and I'm just about to start working at the School of Business with especially the sustainability integration, and that's definitely the approach that we are having too. So we do have also some of the specialization approach, but we are working very much with this integration. And I was wondering with this kind of program level integration work, and there was this example of having these facilitated workshops with faculty to let them have their say what is the meaningful way of integration and what is important in their curriculum and so on. So my question would be, and I would love to hear your experiences about, how do you motivate and maybe incentivize those people who are not yet already interested, kind of receiving of the sustainability approach? How do you get them on board?
Eric, I might jump in because our group has talked about this a lot. And
yeah, go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
I think the bottom line is we're not sure. We're going to try different things. So we're hoping, and we've had a lot of discussions, debates. It took a while to refine that list. You know, I mean, we've had some really healthy, I think, debates in our group on what's the best way to approach and motivate. And, you know, we tried to come up with, and we have some faculty in the group as well that have provided insight. So this isn't just a bunch of administrators sitting around, you know, thinking about, you know, how to do this. We wanted to get faculty perspectives. And I think if we can, I think the bottom line is most people are willing and interested if you make it relatively easy for them to do it. Okay, if it's going to take a lot of their time because they're busy with research and other things, it doesn't mean they're not interested. It just means that they have to pick and choose how they spend their time. So if we can, as much as possible, when I mentioned PSS resources to collate resources for the faculty and articles and other things, we're hoping that the majority of the community gets involved and takes us up on the use of these resources. It'll probably be, you know, you probably have, you know, a progression. You'll have your early adopters, you'll have other people that'll say, hey, this is great, and then they'll come in later, and then you'll have your late adopters, I'm sure. But we're trying to make it as easy as possible for faculty to get involved and change their courses or modify their courses. So we're going to learn a lot. We're just getting started. So I don't know that we have that nut cracked yet, but we're determined to figure it out.
Go ahead,
Thank
Felicia.
you.
Yeah, in addition to what Brian says, which is true, because at the end of the day, when we talk about curriculum, it's going to be the faculty, and you know, faculty are going to be, but they're going to respond based on their availability and their access based on their workload, research expectations, and so forth. But I think also in terms of just conveying the importance and the relevance of this, I think one thing that helps a lot is to create opportunities for faculty to engage with whatever corporate partners or employers regularly engage with your business school, to have conversations that just talk about the problems they're solving and the issues they're dealing with. And, you know, the issue of sustainability is going to come up. Yeah. If you get people from industry in some shape or form, these informal connections on opportunities to engage with your faculty, you know, that helps keep, you know, the relevance on top of mind. And second, if on top of that, ASCSB, if you are pursuing or have ASCSB accreditation, the fact that now the new standards are making it part of the assessment process, our societal impact, I think that this creates both a reason and an opportunity, hopefully, to create a different perception of the relevance of this subject, while at the same time, also, like Brian said, providing their space for faculty to do it. Because if you don't, you could tell all day long how important it is. They will not be able to engage.
Well, and could I just add to what Felicia just said? She brought up a very good point. What we're also hearing is that some people think topics like sustainability are focused on just certain disciplines. So yeah, I'm just using this as an example. So the accounting folks might say, well, that's really an M&O or supply chain topic. So there's really nothing that we need to think about in accounting. So that's why we want to bring in discipline-specific people from industry, as Felicia just suggested, to talk about, well, wait a minute, there's a lot for accountants to consider here. And here's how we're considering sustainability and other topics within, you know, the Big 10 accounting firms. So our faculty get educated along the way as well.
And I can add something just to our discussion there. The one things that we're also doing is when we're doing major sustainability, we look for champions. And in every one of our academic disciplines in the College of Business, there are champions. There are people who are absolutely, incorporating sustainability within their functional area and are really interested in what we're doing. And so whenever we try to, kind of go out and get more people excited, the champions have been helping us a lot. And so we're trying to do that. And we're also trying to do things that are going to be additive to them. We started a leadership forum speaker series. Our next speaker is going to be from the global director of sustainability at Verizon. And we're going to really push that hard with all kinds of incentives to come out, and they get a chance to go and learn what's happening out there in the world and stuff they could share in a class tomorrow. Literally, they could learn it, what's happening in the world, and they could go share it tomorrow. So we're trying to connect it up in a lot of different ways. But I would agree, it is an ongoing process, engaging faculty. And again, I'm going to have to sign off. I actually have to go teach a class with 660 students all about climate change today. So I'm going to go do that right now. So thank you so much, all.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Oh, Reva, you had a question, I think.
Yo, hello, everyone. Not really a question. My name is Oreva. I head sustainability at Lagos Business School. I think my internet's frozen, so I'm going to put up my camera, but you've seen my face. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to thank you all for your presentations and MBS for putting this together. I think I felt like it was kindred spirit. So like, okay, I'm not alone in Africa trying to do this. So thank you very much for putting this together and sharing the experience. And I just wanted to reiterate some of the things you mentioned are really what's working for us, that integrated approach rather than having standalone courses. But we have pursued both the integration into MBA executive programs and the likes, but we also then started seeing that we could have standalone, like short online courses. We do something like that with GNAM, where there's an elective that both students from various GNAM schools can learn about sustainability in the African context. So we then have students and faculty who are more interested kind of being more active on those specialized courses, I can say, but we're trying to integrate. We're also trying to do what you mentioned, which you say you've been doing for 5 years, so it's a bit scary, because we're trying to have it integrated across all disciplines. That's the new objective we have at the business school here in Lagos. So I have another of my colleagues here, Nubi, who's also listening in. And so thank you very much for sharing. And I think it's really, really nice to have been here, and I learned a lot. So nice connecting with everyone.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. We're inspired by you. That's great. Yeah, Clementine.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm gonna try to put the camera. Let me know if it's not working. Yes. Yeah, thanks a lot. So same. So I talk from the University of St. Gallen here in Switzerland, and we're also in that journey on like trying to bring sustainability across all the disciplines taught here at the university. Which is not an easy thing to do, right? And we could hear that today with everyone talking. And I had a specific question related to the champions that you mentioned, because I find it a beautiful way to, you can do an action, but if you have champions, then that replicates it all, and it gets bigger. It gets bigger right away, right? And you can really integrate in more depth into the different schools and departments. So I was wondering how you work with them on the long run, because you identify them, that's clear, and then you mentioned the different maybe conferences that you might do with them to inspire them, but then how do you on a more mid/long-term perspective do you work with them to help you in this goal?
Yeah, well, I'll mention two things specifically, Clementine. One is, so we have our sort of our governance structure, if you will, with sustainability. We have two faculty groups. So one is we have a sustainability research group that has champions from each department. And then we have an education or curriculum focused group, teaching faculty with representation from each of the departments as well. So having them be a part of a community, you know, from a cohesive and community standpoint, sense of belonging and support, that's good. There's also some kind of, I would call it like soft accountability that comes along with that, you know, in the sense of every time there's a meeting, they have an opportunity to speak to what's going on in their department. And that it also gives you a channel through which to communicate. So if something comes up at the meeting, you say, can you share this with your ears and say, can you ask these questions so we can find out better what's happening in these departments? And that's kind of how we develop the content behind, you know, the major sustainability website, you know, everything that you see on this site, right? All of this content came from basically from champions working with their colleagues. And the other thing that we're doing now is with the people that, with some of the individuals that created this content. So if you go to the About Us and you see all these faculty, look at all these are the amazing students, but even more amazing is all the faculty that were involved in. Again, this took 5 years, right? So we had a lot of, you know, it was a big project. But the point is that we're now working with these individuals to create what we call a content team. And so a content team basically means these are faculty who are agreeing to once a year do kind of a refresh on the content of this site. So to look back at their discipline, look back at their, you know, the function that they're responsible for, supply chain, for example, and make sure that this site is up to date with any sort of major changes going on in that particular field. So those are, I guess, 3 ways. We have, you know, these committees, we have these champions, and we have this content team that we've put together for the site. Yeah. So there's one other question from Mariam.
Hello. Thank you very much for this. I'm sorry about the noise around me. I just wanted to ask, like, what's, based on your experience, what's a good place to start if we have nothing standardized, nothing integrated? Where's a good place to start that will create some small wins that will get people actually incentivized, rather than, you know, presenting a whole huge project that will take many years?
Right. Yes. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do. Yeah. You're not ready probably for that just yet. Well, I've spoken a lot, so I think Felisa probably has something to say about, I think you were talking a bit about that already, Felisa, kind of thoughts on, you know, how to get started with sustainability is probably related to how we get started in a lot of things in business schools.
I mean, I think that depending on the level of support that you have in your program and in your department, and also the bandwidth, you know, it can start as perhaps maybe putting a call out for other faculty who may have a similar interest, and begin just having conversations as to whether or not there is an interest to collaborate, and maybe begin by developing, you know, a small module that you can each incorporate in your classes, and, you know, reaching out to colleagues in other institutions, right? and coming up with just perhaps small steps in which you successfully incorporate at least some of the foundational connections between, you know, how we think about sustainability and how that impacts business. And then, you know, if there is perhaps there are student organizations, maybe building interest among the student body, and, you know, again, try to both start generating the demand and the appetite and the desire to learn from the students. And on the other side, maybe starting to incorporate small little bites. Now, if you have a university that can provide grants, sometimes there are seed grants that will allow you to cover the expense of your time, or a TA or something, RA, to develop a special topics, a special seminar, maybe a 1-credit seminar. Start small, but look for opportunities to maybe get funding or get support from your department. But it can start as small as just putting a lesson plan together with a group of colleagues and starting from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Felisa. Well, I know Abby and Maya, we are probably at or over time here. So I just want to thank you all for being here, for engaging with us. And we would be more than happy to work with any of you, to learn from you all in your own journey, and just appreciate the conversation and your time. So, oh, Abby, I'm supposed to show that slide now.
It's all right. I feel like most people have probably seen it. Just a reminder about the upcoming Sustainability Centers workshop in June this year. That's going to be in New York on the 14th and 15th. You can find information on the NBS website about it. We're going to be partnering with Prime and MIT on this year's workshop. Yes, here's our lovely slide. If you have any questions about it, do feel free to reach out to any of us at NBS. Registration isn't open quite yet, but it will be soon. So just make sure it's in your calendar. And thanks everyone so much for joining. We really love hosting these and witnessing all the discussion that comes from them. So thanks again.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Best of luck to you.
Thank you and bye-bye.